On Wednesdays, we talk Flames on the Shifts and Pucks podcast. Here's a portion of some of our talk from last Wednesday's podcast. Maybe I'll drag the second part here. I guess what I'm going to say. Um, and I bring this up because, of course, Brad Treliving has been known to be the bridesmaid at the ball at times. Of course, we talk about Mark Stone. Apparently, he was close on a couple of other trades over the years, and there were some recent names that apparently he was really close on. Of course, we talked about the Jack Eichel situation. I don't think the Flames were close on that, but I think that that's just part of this Treliving narrative is always the bridesmaid, never the bride. But it's time for the Flames to try again. And a name I'm going to toss out there, and I think that there's going to be some dispute of whether he's available or not. Because but the way that the Blackhawks have communicated who is untouchable, which they said was Taves and Kane, and they left out Alex DeBrincat. And if Alex DeBrincat is available, that is a guy that looked to me fits really well with the Flames. I think he's got some versatility. I think he's a potential captain in this league. I really like the way that he represented himself through that whole Kyle Beach fiasco with Chicago. He would bring what Elias Lindholm is not able to bring from that right side offensive ability. I think that this is a guy that the Flames should have a serious long look at trying to acquire. And I'm open to this is a guy that I'm open I'm open to giving I'll be willing to give up a lot to get because this is a guy that I think I'm not is he a franchise player? I think that you can dispute that for some case, but he's a guy that I think you want on your team. I think he's one of those guys that 32 teams would love to have if he's available.
Absolutely. Holy shit. If you can get Alex DeBrincat out of Chicago, he has a manageable cap hit in my mind for what he does at 6.4 for another year after this year. He has ARB rights with it being an RFA at 20 for the 23-24 season. And that's team control right there. But you would be giving up a lot for him, considering he is a 30 goal scorer within this league. This year he's on pace and he was a 41 goal scorer back in 18-19 as well. It's unbelievable how I think that the Blackhawks are having this discussion. He's only 24, so he's great in his prime. Once again, what is the cost that Brad Treliving would be giving up to bring in a player like that? And he would be an amazing add to that top line and push down or even a second line. The only problem, I guess, if he was on that second line was who's going to be dishing in that puck for him to score. And I don't see Backlund as that. And Coleman, he could be that, but I think that we're hoping a lot out of Blake Coleman because of that contract that he signed. I would love to see DeBrincat in Flames colors, but what are you surrounding him with? Are you going to break up that top line if you bring him in and kind of have a 1-2 punch and go back to the old having pairs for each line? But if we're talking about what you're giving up, there's not a lot I wouldn't give up there for DeBrincat, especially with that contract that he's on.
The way I look at it is when you look at the names that Frank Saravelli reported that were quote unquote untouchable, they're the ones with the no movement clauses. And I think Chicago, again, we're talking about a team that does not have a full-time they only have an interim GM right now. So who's making that decision? But with DeBrincat, you're going to have to blow the absolute socks off of Chicago to get him for them to trade him. I don't think they're actually looking to trade him, but I think all they're saying is right now the only players that are not tradable are the ones that have no movement clauses. They're going to respect those clauses, and I think that's all that they've said. Well, I think that's when you look at who they've mentioned, with it being Kane, Taves, and Seth Jones. To me, that just screams that they're doing is honoring the no movement clauses, and then they're willing to listen on everyone else. But you're going to have to absolutely knock their socks off for an Alex DeBrincat.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's going to be a cheap acquisition price at all. But I think the Flames could have the package to do it. I'll start with just a theoretical package here. This is one that I would be, and we haven't put this in here, but I'm just going to bring something up. If the reports are true that Andre Mangiapane is going to sign only going to sign a 1-year contract, I think you have to have a conversation about whether or not you keep him or trade him. Like you got to legitimately think about this. But Mangiapane would be a guy I would be open to making that move for. By the way, just on a side note, can I just on a trailer here? Mangiapane has scored 1 goal in the last 10 games, and he has not scored in the last 8. And his last goal was December 30th in Seattle on the road. We're not. I don't. I just. My point is I don't think we're talking enough about I get the enamorment with Andre Mangiapane, but I also think there's a legitimate conversation about consistency with Andre Mangiapane too.
I think part of that there, Kev, sorry for interrupting, is that he just got off to an absolutely torrid start. Like it was insane, and if you looked at, you knew it was unsustainable. Like he was shooting ridiculous. His shooting percentage was sky high, and he's just going back to what he was never a scorer at that level, but he's not what he's been showing now. It's in the middle here, and he's just coming back down, and he'll have another hot streak here soon.
But then to counter your counter on that then the question comes of what you actually pay Andre Mangiapane.
Oh, I agree, and that's one of the big. I think that the Flames have 3 very tough negotiations coming up in this offseason for contracts with Tkachuk, Gaudreau, and Mangiapane, because you've got Tkachuk's qualifying offer. Gaudreau's a UFA. Is he and he's someone that you can't. If you lose to Gaudreau for nothing, that's gonna sting. And then you have Mangiapane, who, like I said, what blew the roof off of the NHL with his start, but has calmed down back to what he likely is, which is a good second line player, which is great. But how much are you paying him, and can you get him locked up long term? Because if you sign him to a 1-year deal, you're essentially walking him to UFA.
That's exactly what you're doing. You are walking him to UFA, and it's one of those things where, okay, well, if Mangiapane is going to be asking for $6 million, it's going to be, oh, well, no, sorry, you haven't shown that consistency. He's been amazing for the past 2 years as a whole, but yeah, it really depends on what he thinks he is and what he thinks is what his agent thinks he is, because his agent thinks he's a top 5 player in this league. How crazy is that? And he does have all these even strength goals going back to last year, but realistically, he's not a top 5 player in this league, and he's a great. If we're talking about top second line players in this league, he's up there. He's not like, I'd say he's top 15 of top being on that second line. And I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as people are going to make it out to be. But if we're going back to the original conversation of putting Mangiapane into that trade offer for Alex DeBrincat, I say fuck yeah, absolutely. But once again, it's okay. What else are we giving up as far as the Flames go? But I definitely entertain that offer. It's not it's a yes at the very beginning. Yes, and what else do you want?
You can catch us live every Wednesday, facebook.com, the Shifts and Pucks podcast, youtube.com, Shifts and Pucks podcast, twitch.com, Shifts and Pucks podcast, or wherever you get your audio podcasts.